typical, winter going on right now, but we've had a pretty mild winter. How do people respond to winter down in Florida?
Well, like I said, I'm to the point where I might put on long pants and regular socks and shoes instead of the slides or the flip flops. No walk on the beach today. No cocktails by the pool. That's Florida living. That's what it's about. So, yeah, none of that stuff. It's you know what it is. It's time to sit down in front of the TV and watch some football. That's what time it is.
Yeah, and that's what it should be about. And before we get into the games that happened this week or this past weekend, let's go into what's as far as what we've seen and as far as what's going on before we get into Chiefs, Bills, as well as Packers and Bucks. Bring me into your thoughts on what happened over this past weekend. I mean, we got to see the Browns try to do something special here. They got close. We got to obviously see the Chiefs move on in that game. We saw the Packers take care of business on the Rams. We saw the Bucks find a way to outdo Drew Brees, who seemed to have a very emotional moment when he was leaving his home stadium after that loss. And we saw the Bills handle the Baltimore Ravens, and basically in that game the Bills scored the most points, the Winds scored the second most, and then the Ravens were left as the third highest scoring team in that game. What can you say about a weekend that was filled with drama, a weekend that was filled with some excitement, and some surprises to some people as well?
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise was the Ravens. I mean, this is a team that was running the ball right down people's throats. They could do no wrong. No one wanted to play the Ravens this time of year. It was looking like things were lining up for the Ravens, but it didn't work out. I mean, the Buffalo defense stymied that. They knocked Lamar Jackson out of the game, and that's what happens. You take the star out of the game, and more than likely you're gonna win. I mean, holding the Ravens to 3 points was phenomenal, and the big dagger was Lamar Jackson's 100 and whatever yard interception by Taron Jackson. I just you can't do that. I don't understand why they're throwing the ball there anyway. So it was like, to me, the immediate flashback was when the Seahawks decided to throw the ball on a 1 yard touchdown, 4th and 1 in the Super Bowl. To me, the immediate flashback was when the Seahawks decided to throw the ball on a 1 yard. It was a curious call, and then Lamar Jackson goes out of the game. So all hope was lost at that point in my mind's eye. And then you click over to the Packers and the Rams. I think the Packers did what the Packers were expected to do. I thought the Rams played well, but it just wasn't good enough. Whenever you have Aaron Rodgers and company and everybody's clicking on all cylinders, and Alan Lazard is back in full strength here, almost 100 yards and and a touchdown. So, and then you look at the Bucks. How good is the Bucks defense? How good was Devin White? How good was Devin White? 11 tackles. He had an interception. He had a fumble recovery. The guy was playing like a madman. All I thought about was he's playing like Ray Lewis did when Ray Lewis had the MVP in the Super Bowl back in 2012. I thought that was, an immediate thought I had, that the defense and not Tom Brady could actually be leading them to a Super Bowl in their hometown and possibly a Super Bowl win. And then I click over to the Chiefs and the Browns, and kind of like the Bills and the Ravens, the Chiefs lost their star quarterback in this game to a concussion, Patrick Mahomes, and we just saw how that affected the Ravens, and they ended up still losing, but somehow they pulled it out. I think it's more so Stefanski turning the ball back over to the Chiefs, not thinking they would be able to run the clock out. That's that what-if moment. That's that we had them. That's that I immediately flashed back in my mind to Dennis Green at the press conference. We had them, and we let them off the hook. That's where I felt the Browns were. If there was a time to beat the Chiefs, it's when you're down by 5, it's the 4th quarter, and they don't have Patrick Mahomes. Somebody needed to step up and make a play, and it just didn't happen. So, it was fascinating to see all these different storylines and different thoughts to previous NFL greats in previous situations for me. It was an exciting weekend of football.
Yeah, and I think, when I look back on it, I'm happy for my buddy Nate Hackett, who's the offensive coordinator out in Green Bay. I think it's insane that Tom Brady, but I'm not surprised. He's one game away from having a home Super Bowl because it will be played in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. I look to the Baltimore Ravens, and I picked the Bills to win that game. That's the only game that you and I differed on, and I picked the Bills to win that game because I just, I felt like they were going to be able to figure it out and that their defense could do something. I didn't think there'd be a 101-yard interception return from end zone to end zone by Taron Jackson, but that was the play of the game by far. And, I think, this Bills team just did what they needed to do. They got it done. It's exciting. They're one game out of the Super Bowl after having their first playoff win since 1995. And back when they were making Super Bowls was way back before the 21st century. So, I think there's a lot of storylines that are converging and coming together in this. And, what's Drew Brees going to do? And that side of it. And then the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes and the protocol. And is he going to be ready? So there's a lot of question marks. And ultimately, it's becoming something special of these last four. The Chiefs, obviously, we anticipated they would be here. I think people anticipated that the Packers would be here for the most part. The Bucks and Tom Brady, you can't be surprised that the 43-year-old is still doing it as well as he does. And then the Buffalo Bills, I thought they were a strong team, and number one's playing number two on that side of it in the AFC. So it's been a pretty incredible finish to get to this point. Are you surprised of these final four? Is there somebody else you thought should have been here? What are your thoughts on it?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I think the Bucks game could have went either way, but I was given Drew Brees and the fact that they beat him two other times. But then you look at it and you're like, okay, I got to beat him three times now, and they got Tom Brady. I don't know if that's a fair trade. And it turned out, again, to be the defense and Devin White that really pulled through. So I think the Chiefs definitely deserve to be there. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be fine. I think the Bucks deserve to be here because don't forget, this is the Bucks team that's now firing on all cylinders. The defense is playing out of their mind. Can you imagine if they had a real preseason? They may have been playing at this level for quite a few weeks in the season. And then the Packers, I think they deserve to be there. And the Bills have been playing really well. Josh Allen and company really well. Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs, that's a real thing. And they're proving that they are who they say they are. They're a good team. So I think everybody deserves them to be there. I'm not shocked at anything. The only thing I'm kind of shocked in is that the Ravens and the Saints weren't able to take that next step. And again, the Browns, I feel, let one get away from them. So it is what it is. That's what happens. Odds are, and they always are, that we're going to see one of these teams next year make a deep run into the playoffs again, which I just don't know which one it's going to be. If I had to put money on it, I would say it's going to be the Ravens, simply because, Drew Brees has probably played his final game. And the Browns, I think there's a lot of unanswered questions there right now as well. I think they had a good enough team to take it to the next step. You wonder if OBJ was in the lineup, would that have been the same? So there's some interesting storylines, and there's going to be more storylines coming out this weekend. So it should be another exciting weekend of football.
Yeah, and the question I wanted to get to, and you kind of answered it here in what you think is going to happen, but what is going on with the Baltimore Ravens? I mean, this is a team that some people, you and I, going into the season, thought that they would be second best behind only the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC. What is going on with them? Can they figure this out? Is there enough there that they can make a deeper run, as they have now been bumped out of the playoffs twice when some people thought that this could be a Super Bowl team? And definitely last year more than this year, too.
I think there are a couple players, if not a couple plays, away from, making a run back to the Super Bowl. I can't think of another situation where they have everything clicking on offense. There's a couple wasted roster spots. One of them's Mark Ingram. I mean, the guy's a great locker room guy, and he's a great rah-rah guy, but he's taken up a roster spot. As a matter of fact, he's been active the past two games. So, unfortunately, he's just not he's a little long in the tooth. But you take a look at this past game. They were throwing the ball a lot more than I thought they should have. They had 32 rushes and they only completed 20 passes. So I'm just wondering about the whole game plan. And then at the end of the game, Lamar Jackson, and we've seen him exit from a game before, but then be able to come back and be the hero. So I'm sure there may be some good draft picks, maybe another free agent signing away from really making it happen. I would like to say, COVID and Lamar Jackson, but everybody dealt with the same situation. So it's not like that was only regulated to their area of the country. So everybody was dealing with something. So you can't go there. I just think they're a player or two or a play or two away from, making a deep Super Bowl run.
Yeah, and I think that, ultimately, with Mark Andrews, with Lamar Jackson, with, some of the guys that they have defensively and whatnot, I do think Baltimore has good stuff to offer. I think Miles Boykin stepped up. Hollywood Brown's had some good moments. But ultimately, and J.K. Dobbins, but I think ultimately they need a little bit more. They're not completely there. And I think that they're, really going to have to assess what there is and what they're going to do with that. And I think they need to figure out the running back situation and not have like 4 guys on the team. I know they run the ball, but like you said, wasting roster spots seems like something that has been happening. So I think they really need to be conscientious of where they go from here, and hopefully things will work out in their favor as Mike and I talk inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. You can call them at 315-487-2222 for curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery as we discuss the NFL's championship round for the 2020-2021 season here with 4 games coming up. Mike and I will take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, we will assess both games, both played on Sunday, this January 24th, with the Bills against the Chiefs in Kansas City, Missouri for the AFC crown, and on the other side of it, Tampa inside of Wisconsin. Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to visit the Green Bay Packers in the Cheesehead State to find out who will make it out of the NFC. That is all coming up right after this, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and of course every Wednesday for the Fantasy Football Power Hour from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time inside of all of our Wednesday broadcasts here on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on wakeupcalldt.com, Facebook Live on facebook.com/livenowdt, and now on YouTube Live on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. We'll take this step aside and we'll come back, Mike and I, with these big games coming up for you, fantasy football implications, game predictions, and more right after this. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda. This is Jim Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare it to order in the kitchen. We hand butter chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on Facebook Live on facebook.com/livenowdt, and on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. A lot of different places to watch and listen. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us. Of course, Mr. Mike Sofka is here with us inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour that we do every Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time here on Wake Up Call, brought to you by the Wildcat Sports Pub. Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, and you can call them for curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery at 315-487-2222. And, of course, you could go on location for indoor dining as well. Mike, we got two awesome games to get into. I'm ecstatic about this. I can't believe we're already here, but we are. The games are going on this Sunday. We have a Saturday off from the NFL, and we have now gone into Championship Sunday, which will bring us into, eventually, the championship of the championship, which will decide the Super Bowl crown for this year between the NFC and the AFC. Let's start things off in the conversation with the first game that we will see, which is that NFC Championship game, Tampa Bay versus Green Bay. The Bays will face off with one another at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. What are your thoughts?
Historically, Tampa doesn't play very well in the weather, and when I say weather, I mean the snow. It's supposed to be 28 with a 50% chance of snow. So I think that's going to come into play. Now, I know they've overcome that years past, and same thing with Jacksonville. Miami went through this, and let's face it, you spend most of the time in warm weather situations or in domes. Then, the end of the season comes, and here it's freezing, wind blowing, and you're in Green Bay on a frozen or in domes. Then, the end of the season again from Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, almost identical stat lines in the last game. I think they're going to need for Antonio Brown to be on the field, dinged up with a knee injury. Looks like he's going to make the game, and everything's going to be good there. They're going to have all their receivers here, and this is what most teams don't want to see. They don't want to see Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I wouldn't want to see that if I was the defensive coordinator on any other team, but it is what it is. That's how they got here. Oh, and then they got a guy like Gronk, who is going to step up and make a play. Just his presence on the field makes you account for him, and then they can use him as a decoy, and he's a pretty good blocker as well. And then you got the legend, the greatest of all time, Tom Brady on the other side. The only bad thing is I don't think he's the best quarterback left in these playoffs. As a matter of fact, I think he's the fourth best quarterback this year left in the playoffs. But then, not to take away from the other side of the ball, the guy guys I look to have the top weekends here, the guys I think are going to do the best in running back. Aaron Jones is number 1 rated guy.
On the other side of the ball, the guys I look to have the top weekends here, the guys I think are going to do the best.
Tight end, only to Travis Kelce, but we'll get to that later. But, Aaron Rodgers, I think he's doing just enough to win. I think he's doing enough to carry his team when need be. And that's what they're about. And he's able to distribute the ball and run that offense. He doesn't make many mistakes. And they're at home. I don't see how I can pick against the Packers with all things considered. I think it's going to be close. I think Tom's going to try to make a game of it. Unfortunately, he may be an interception or two to make things worse for his team. I think Green Bay's got too much going for him in this game. I'm going to go with the Packers.
Yeah, in this matchup, I think it's going to be definitely interesting because Tom Brady always seems to pull a rabbit out of his hat at the most opportune times, and so that's a concern of a lot of people, and I think it's a concern of Packers fans out there of what could happen, the Bays versus the Bays, and knowing that, this would be another, perfect NFL story to tell. Tom Brady, 43 years old, look at what he did, went to Tampa for a season and brought them to the Super Bowl, and they did it, and they got to play it at home in Raymond James Stadium. How crazy, how weird. You talk about conspiracy theories and all that stuff, but the reality of it all is, Tom Brady is a fantastic quarterback. He has done incredible things and has just absolutely positively taken the NFL by storm. But on the other side, Aaron Rodgers is pretty amazing himself, and I believe it was Tom Brady that said if Aaron Rodgers was in the offense that he was in New England, that Aaron Rodgers would have had better numbers. So the reality of it all is this is going to be, Tom Brady. It's kind of like going through a video game and seeing if you can, beat the big bad in each round because, Tom just went and faced Drew Brees, and now Tom is going and facing Aaron Rodgers, and obviously Tom is right up there himself. So, in this matchup, Tom Brady, it would be hard to not play him, but I do agree with Mike that he's not my top quarterback that is left in this. The Josh Allens and the Aaron Rodgers of the world to lead the way for me. But, Tom Brady, not a bad play for you. Leonard Fournette against the Green Bay Packers, I don't anticipate too much. So I'd relegate him to a running back 2. He kind of dips down a little bit for me. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are both obviously worth the play because those are big-time targets. Antonio Brown is questionable with a knee injury. He would be a flex if he does play. Gronk has fallen down a little bit. I'd say he's a tight end 2, in my opinion. On the other side for the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers is an absolute must. Aaron Jones, you got to play him as well. Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard with the big-time touchdown. The crazy thing and awesome thing is that my grandfather, my Pop Covino, my mom's dad, his favorite team was his favorite team was and will always be the Green Bay Packers. From what I from how he left this planet, that's the team he was cheering for. And so, being a Packers fan, I was happy they got the win. His favorite number is also 13, and Allen Lazard's number is 13, and Allen Lazard's touchdown is the thing that put the nail in the coffin. So I think it's kind of cool how that all came about. Allen Lazard and Devontae Adams both worth the play. And Robert Tonyan is worth a lower-end tight end 1. I actually put him above Gronk in this game. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling would be a flex for me. I'm going to have to, and for those of you watching on video on YouTube as well as on Facebook, as we write this in and I'm writing, our picks in here, Mr. Sofka, I'm going to have to agree with you, and I'm going to have to pick Green Bay as well. I know that Tampa is extremely dangerous, and I'm very concerned, but I got to go with the Green Bay Packers, who seem to be surging now more than ever, doing better as time goes on. I respect them. I appreciate them. I think that they should be the team that will move on here out of the frozen tundra. Then we have, talk about frozen tundra, if the Bills make it out of this thing and the Packers make it out of this thing, it'll be frozen tundra versus frozen tundra in sunny Florida for the Super Bowl. What do you have for the AFC Championship game, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS, when the Bills play the Chiefs? What's going to happen?
I think a lot's going to depend on Patrick Mahomes clearing a concussion protocol, cleared to return to practice as of today. It just he's still got to take those final steps. I have no doubt that that's going to happen for him. Just watching him run back to the locker room, I thought he was, had his wits about him. But, these things are in place. These protocols are in place to, save the players, save them for longevity. It's a smart thing, and I'm glad they were able to, look at that situation, and I'm glad everything seemed to work out okay for him. But, you take a look at the Chiefs. Did they do enough to beat the Browns, or did the Browns give them the game toward the end? I talked about that earlier. I think the Browns weren't the better team all in all, and I just think, the teams find a way to win. Great teams find a way to do great things. Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time situations. And Kansas City surrounded themselves with big-time players. Travis Kelce, obviously the top tight end. Tyreek Hill, I would take him just about any day over just about anyone in the league, as short of a Devontae Adams or maybe a Michael Thomas when he's feeling well, or maybe even a Stephon Diggs this time of year. But, the running game is where I think they're a little bit suspect.
That face that is usually covered by our phone has finally made an appearance.
I don't know, can I count on those guys? I know I can count on Patrick Mahomes. He's done enough to prove he's a championship caliber player. He's won it. He's done well on the big stage. And then, across from him is Josh Allen, and I think he's got the opportunity to put up the best stat line of all the quarterbacks this week. And, Devin Singletary's been playing well, and he's going to have to play well. Buffalo did sign Devonta Freeman to the practice squad, a couple weeks ago when it looked like Zach Moss was done for the year, and sure enough, he was. So Devin Singletary's the man, so he's going to get the additional touches. And with the Zach Moss, and Antonio Williams is another name to look out for. Deep DFS value for you. But Stephon Diggs is where this offense is, most proud. Stephon Diggs has been the premier guy for them, and a premier guy in the league as far as wide receivers this year. He's the target Josh Allen is looking for. And Dawson Knox has come on strong as of late with a red zone and touchdown opportunities. So I think Buffalo has the opportunity to win. I just don't know if Kansas City's going to give them another opportunity like they gave the Browns last week. I don't know if they're going to keep it that close. I'd like to say it's going to be close, but Buffalo's been playing really hot, and it's hard to say this, but I think Kansas City's going to win. I think Kansas City's going to cover. I think it's going to be bigger than people think it's going to be, just because everyone anticipates it being real close. I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think, for me, this is a really interesting game in the fact, I'm going back and I'm watching here in the studio the Pat Mahomes, the hit that he took from Mac Wilson. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to bring it up so people can see it. Because if you didn't see it, or I want you to at least see it while I talk about it, I do have to leave a disclaimer here that Mike and I do not own the rights to this video. It's to the NFL and its partners, to the AFC, to the Cleveland Browns, as well as the Kansas City Chiefs and their respective outlets of network broadcasts and yada, 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 and all that good stuff. I do have to say that to you as a disclaimer, just so you know. And so if you're wondering why I'm saying it, that is why. So give credit where credit is due. But as we put this together and let you see this, I do want to talk about this hit, because there's a lot of things that I feel the need to talk about when it comes to this, but I'm going to bring it up right now so you can watch it on youtube.com/WakeCallDT, as well as on Facebook.com/live now.
Discover the
DT here after this ad goes through. We'll be able to take a look at it. But to look at this hit, when you see it in real time, it's kind of interesting here. So it's playing right now, so you could take a look at what's going on here. But as we watch this hit, we see Pat Mahomes come around the right side, and Mac Wilson comes around his back and grabs him. But when you see, and it doesn't look like a helmet-to-helmet hit, and it wasn't. But when you look at Pat Mahomes getting up here, he's obviously dizzy, and he is struggling a little bit. The staff comes out immediately, and he looks shaken up. So you're seeing him kind of plant his feet here and try and get his bearings again. He looks like, somebody who just got done, maybe like throwing up in the bathroom type of thing. But when you watch the hit here by Mac, you see him hit the shoulder. I'm going to play it back one more time. You see him hit the shoulder, and he never hits the helmet. He never goes helmet to helmet here, but he grabs the neck of Pat Mahomes and pulls his neck forward. I think this is where the issue came in. It looks like he's hitting at his helmet after this, and he's actually not. He's trying to get the ball out. But you see that he doesn't hit him helmet to helmet, but as he's going, he's holding onto his neck and pulls his neck with his brute force, pulls the Pat Mahomes' neck all the way toward him. And that is where I think, maybe there was this kind of jarring moment for Pat Mahomes, because you see, there's the hit again. He hits the shoulder with his head, and then he just grabs the neck of Pat Mahomes and pulls it. So, I bring up this play, and I show you this play because, number one, I don't think it was a dirty hit. I think the pulling of the neck afterwards, and obviously the force, right? You're trying to get after him. You're trying to get the ball out. You grab at him, and you hold on with the neck. When you slow it down, you say, how could he do that? But when it's normal run of play, you grab onto what you can grab onto, and he grabbed around the neck, and he held onto it, and because Mac is so strong, he pulled him forward. But it wasn't a helmet-to-helmet hit. This wasn't, I think a dirty play that he was trying to do. Mac received death threats after the game and asked people to understand that he is a player that just gives his all. He fights as hard as he possibly can, and he didn't mean anything by it. Pat Mahomes actually wrote back to him, all good, brother, after that. So I think it's important to know that death threats are probably not a good thing to do to the morons out there. I have to leave that disclaimer. And that Mack Wilson was just trying to play the game. But Mike, from what I could see from this video, before I give my predictions and my thoughts, there is no helmet-to-helmet hit. It looks like Mac essentially might have just rang Pat Mahomes a little bit based on pulling his neck and probably the undeniable strangeness of having your entire body pulled by your neck.
And this is where it gets dicey. I know Pat Mahomes was a runner at this point, so he's no longer protected under the quarterback rules where, if Kenny Stabler, if all sorts of guys had the rules they have today, the numbers would be much more off the charts in Hall of Fame territory. Not to take anything away from today's quarterbacks, but the quarterbacks of the past, they played when the game was a little bit different. And that was not a big hit. That was not a vicious hit. That was not malice on the part of Mack Wilson. I don't even see where his neck or head got hit hard enough to make him that woozy. I was quite surprised by his reaction to that. But, I'm not going to take anything away from him because, he is a grown man, and if it made him dizzy, whether it looked
Welcome
like
here
a
to
lot
Wake
or
Up Call
not,
with Ian Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop.
You take a look at, was he able to come back to the game? Well, obviously not. He could barely walk off the field. So, I don't know. I think he's going to clear the concussion protocol. I just don't think there was any malice on Mack Wilson's part. If you've ever played defense, if you've ever played football, it's not easy to change once you commit. And like you had mentioned, Dan, he was just grabbing on to what he could grab onto. These guys are trying to do several things at one time. They're trying to tackle and punch the ball out is how they're trained. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was playing, back when we had leather helmets with no face mask, your guy, your teammate would yell and hold him up so that they could get a clean shot on him so they could punch the ball out. Because, that's what it's about. It's about getting the ball back. People think it's about stopping the other team. Well, it is, but nowadays the primary focus is punching the ball out. And you can't blame teams for wanting to do that. That's how you take away their weapon, and that's how you put your weapon on the field. So, again, I don't think there was any malice. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to suffer serious long-term injury from this hit. And, I think everybody's going to be okay and everything's going to move on. I just think it's a, unfortunate situation for Pat Mahomes. But again, I think everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, so as we look at this, and the big question mark is, will Pat Mahomes play? It was kind of crazy to me that immediately after the game, they said Pat Mahomes rolled out after hit. It was like 5 seconds after the game, 2 minutes after the game, and I was like, yeah, no. I don't believe that because in other places he's not. Now, normally when you have a concussion in the NFL, you're out at least a game. You're out 7 days, 8 days. Well, in the case of Pat Mahomes in the playoffs, this is where you see rules kind of change a little bit. Now, it didn't look like he got hit helmet to helmet, so that, obviously could help the situation. Like Mike said, you don't really see where the jarring hit came from, but obviously you have to take the right precautions to make sure that Pat Mahomes is okay and that any player is okay. So in this situation, I would imagine that Pat Mahomes will find his way out there. It doesn't look like the hit was that hard, like I was saying, and it doesn't look to be any helmet-to-helmet contact. So, this is something that I would anticipate is maybe going through the concussion protocol, and when people are screaming, this isn't fair, other guys have to stay out. Well, other guys that got hit helmet-to-helmet, it's obviously a different hit and a different thing. If this is one of the mild forms of it and it doesn't look like a direct hit, maybe that's what's helping the protocol go forward, but I can't see Pat Mahomes being the gamer that he is not playing in the game. Now, is he going to be 100%? That's a question mark. Would Chad Henne have to come in at some point? That could also be a possibility as well. For me, I'm going to start with the fantasy side of it and start with the number 2 seed Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, as I said earlier, is definitely 100% worth the play. Devin Singletary, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, John Brown. You can't really leave anybody off the list here. And, you look at the fact that Gabriel Davis as well from UCF. But Stephon Diggs is your best bet. Cole Beasley and Gabriel Davis are flexes at 3s and 4s. John Brown, I say, was a low-end 2 wide receiver. Singletary, I like him as a running back 2. Allen is a quarterback 1. Between Allen and Aaron Rodgers, it's hard to choose who's going to be the top. I'd probably say Aaron Rodgers by a hair this week, and then Josh Allen. On the other side of it, and I would also look to the Buffalo defense and special teams. If they take 1 to 2 possessions away from the Kansas City Chiefs, that's how you win this game. On the other side of it for Kansas City, if Pat Mahomes is the one that will play, which I would anticipate is, a good possibility here, then you got to play Pat Mahomes. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is questionable with an ankle injury. So, Darrell Williams would be the next guy up here, and then Le'Veon Bell. So if Clyde Edwards-Helaire doesn't go out there, then you can look to Williams or Thompson as a running back 3. If Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes out there, then he's obviously a running back 1. Just look to see how he's doing as far as his injury goes throughout the week. Tyreek Hill is worth the play as well. Sammy Watkins is questionable with a calf injury. He would be a wide receiver 2. And then McCole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson and so on from there. Byron Pringle. Those are all flex guys, lower end. Travis Kelce is a number 1 tight end and worth the play for you as well. And of all the tight ends that are left in the game, he is by far my number 1 tight end in these final 4 teams and my favorite here. I am going to go out on a limb like I did last week. I shouldn't say I went out on a limb last week. I believed in him. But with the fact that Pat Mahomes, even if he does play, could not be at full go, and knowing how this team fights, and I still don't think we've seen the best of them, I'm picking Buffalo. So I will be going with Buffalo in this game. I have cold meets cold in warm when Green Bay meets Buffalo in Tampa. Mike has Green Bay and Kansas City in Tampa for the Super Bowl, and this is our championship Sunday. We both picked Green Bay over Tampa Bay. I picked Buffalo over Kansas City, and Mike did the opposite. Mike, any final notes before we wrap things up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in the Fantasy Football Power Hour that you want to discuss, either from these games or from the retirement of Phillip Rivers after almost 2 decades in the NFL? Anything on your mind?
I think the Phillip Rivers thing is interesting because it looks like Drew Brees may be retiring as well. And this is a situation where Brees was, jettisoned from San Diego when they were in San Diego and not Los Angeles, and he went off and signed elsewhere. They were concerned about his shoulder and the shoulder surgery. Then the Chargers draft Eli Manning, and then they end up making that draft day trade a little while later with Phillip Rivers, and then it's just neat to see the way things are kind of connected like that. But one thing that's not going to be connected here real soon is the Combine. The Combine's going to be under different parameters this year. Football Operations of the NFL has sent out a memo effective on the 18th saying that their draft Combine isn't going to happen. So basically they're going to have individual workouts for draft prospects. So no more underwear Olympics, if you would, for sizing players up and all this stuff. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to have individual pro days, but I think it's going to take a lot away from what we learn about players. They're still going to do some of the same things. It's still going to be a 2-3 day process, but I'm concerned about the mid-level player who barely gets invited to the Combine, and then he shows up and he wows everybody with his 40 time. I'm concerned that somebody's going to have a 38-yard dash at their pro day and everyone else is going to have a 40-yard dash. I'm concerned with the level of in-depth availability and in-depth coverage and in-depth information that's going to be available to teams. They're going to have to rely more on game film from these guys. Oh, and by the way, the game film you're looking at is from a COVID-shortened season. Well, oh, and by the way, this draft prospect was out 3 games due to COVID protocol. It's just it's a scary situation. I feel bad for general managers and coaches who are going to have their careers staked on the inability to get all the information that they normally get. Now, you take a look at teams that normally do well and build well from the draft. Certain teams are going to flourish in this situation. A team like the Steelers, they don't make draft mistakes too often. So what I'm saying is there may be a larger separation of the haves and have-nots in this draft class because of the cancellation of the Combine. And to make it more crazy, this is going to make my job that much more difficult scouting these guys for people. So, we all have a challenge ahead of us here, and I'm sure it's going to be okay. I don't think it's going to be madness or anything, but at the same time, it's going to be a different-looking draft. It's going to be a different-looking rookie class, and there's going to be some gems. There's going to be some needle in a haystack type kind of guys that are going to be found. Some teams are going to look great, and most other teams aren't going to look as good as they normally would in a typical draft year with a typical Combine. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to having to work that much harder this year.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to challenge us both, and I love it. I love the challenge. I embrace the challenge, and I look forward to the challenge as always. Mike, thank you for everything you do to continue to challenge me and challenge us all here with fantasy football in the Fantasy Football Power Hour every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Open for indoor dining as well as for curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery. You can call them at 315-487-2222. Mike is at HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com. And, of course, we are both at Winning Fantasy Football on Facebook, the Facebook group that continues to grow. Winning Fantasy Football is the group to join on Facebook. It is free, and it is there for every single one of you. And we ask for 2 things. Justify your opinion and be respectful. If you could do those 2 things, then you are set to join us inside of the Winning Fantasy Football group for 24-hour, 7-day-a-week fantasy football love all the time. So, with that being said, Mr. Sofka, thank you for being my better half in this Fantasy Football Power Hour as always. I appreciate you. Enjoy the games this weekend, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
And you're too kind. Right back at you. I'll talk to you next time.
All right, take care. That coming from Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com as well as of our Winning Fantasy Football group. So very, very much appreciate talking with him and having a great time with him, and there's a lot of great stuff coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll take our final step aside of today's broadcast. When we come back, I'll wrap up today's show and get you set for the rest of the week here where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios with 5 locations all throughout Central New York, 4 in Syracuse, and their newest one on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, that giant brown stripe building that you can't miss where all of the roads converge in Manlius. So make sure you find your way out there. I'll talk with you all soon right after this fast break as we hear from our great partners in the community and then come back into the Cafe Kubal studios to say a see you later from today.
Cafe Kubal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafekubal.com. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you make your way up there, but make sure before you do that, you download their app on the Google Play or Apple App Store. You'll have their entire menu at your fingertips. It's extremely user-friendly and easy to navigate through with their homemade breads and desserts, as well as their quinoa bowls, their rice bowls, their salads, their brick oven pizzas, and sandwiches named after the families that helped to settle today's Pulaski. They are ingrained in our taste buds and ingrained in our community, and they are there for you Tuesday through Sunday in their drive-up window. The general store is also open throughout the week with local products from local companies, and on the weekends, their bistro is open inside for indoor dining. The Millhouse Market, multifaceted, finding ways to connect with our community, help to keep us safe, give us the flavors that we love, and build on that local, important spotlight, which is ever so vital in our community today. Thank you to the Millhouse Market for going the extra mile, and that's why you should go the extra mile for them. 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. The Millhouse Market, worth the drive every time. With that being stated, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to give a very special thank you to my fantastic guests that were a part of the broadcast today. Of course, Preston Shumper in hour number 1, and in hour 2, Championship Sunday conversation, Bucks versus the Packers, Bills versus the Chiefs, with Mr. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, and us both of Winning Fantasy Football, the group that you need to join on Facebook for free today. Coming up this week, a lot of great stuff. Papa Joe still coming up Thursday morning. We have a great video special we're going to be doing with a bunch of awesome people. Rick as well as Carl. And Rick, Carl, Travis, and Ray will all be joining me for NFL, NBA, college basketball, big-time sports conversation where I'm sure we'll be laughing and having a good time, razzing one another. So they will all be joining me coming up on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and a video special tomorrow for Thursday, January 21st. And on Friday, of course, we have the Annoying Moment of the Week presented by Carvel DeWitt. Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver, brought to you by Chick-fil-A Cicero with Juanita Ward, my co-host. The top dog of the week will be announced this week from Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Campground Dog Boarding. And, of course, we'll have another special guest coming to you this Friday. So a lot of great stuff coming up on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and I can't wait to bring it to you. And today, on Inauguration Day, not political. This show is not about saying this or saying that. I will just say this to you. We are better together than apart. Hate has never built anything, and positivity and love are the only way to get out of any type of black hole that we've been pushed in or fallen into. Don't give up. Be yourself and understand that just because someone is a little bit different, even a lot of bit different than you, doesn't mean that we can't find a way to be the best we can be. Reach out a hand for compassion. If somebody doesn't take it, it's on them. But don't ever stop reaching out your hand for compassion. Be good. Be kind. Be you. This is Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You can find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Of course, the show is live for you every Monday through Friday on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Audio on MixLR.com/Wake Up Call DT. And of course, you were able to watch the show live on YouTube today as well on YouTube.com/Wake Up Call DT. And of course, you could search our archives of the audio and video on Spotify, MixLR, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Podbean, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora or one word, Wake Up Call DT. A special thanks to our Central and Upstate New York partners, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Cafe Kubal, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Eva Coley's, Honda City of Liverpool, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Millhouse Market, and Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. Make sure you go to maandpazpopcorn.com and use the promo code DT20. That's maandpazpopcorn.com and use the promo code DT20 in any one of the 50 states to get 20% off your online orders. If you're picking it up here in the community, you can go online before you go to the store. Go to maandpazpopcorn.com, use the promo code DT20, and that'll get you 20% off for in-store pickup as well, but you have to place the order online. God bless, no stress, do your best. Please remember to be the best you can be. I asked this question and I wear this shirt today. Are you human? Now it's an Inhuman shirt and it actually has something to do with Marvel, but I wear it for a deeper meaning. Are you human? What does it mean to be human? Compassionate, kind, loving, humble, selfless, hardworking, determined, perseverant, faithful, hopeful, loving. Think about what you do in today's world. Think about how you treat yourself. Think about how you treat others. If you need to change it for the better today. And if you know you're a good person and you do the best you can, keep being a good person today. But do not go one step further in the wrong direction. It's just going to take that much longer if you do to get back right. I'll talk with you soon. God bless.